Hello and welcome to the April 28th, 2024 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick. This is brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, I've started to put money into this little project of mine, and I am having fun doing so. We're here every other Sunday. I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News Facebook page. That's right, we're on Facebook Meta, whatever the hell it's called this week. We are working on branching out. Slowly but surely, we're getting things done on that front. We're going to be having a Nick's News YouTube page. I keep talking about it. It is being worked on, though. So, look forward to that. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back into the world. Several of our articles are pulled from goodnewsnetwork.org, but I also appreciate the articles that are sent in by you, the viewers. And hello to everybody tuning in tonight. Whew. Little bit of a technical difficulty, a little snafu, but that seems to be par for the course. So we are starting a little late, and my chair seems to be lower than normal, I think. I think I'm normally, like, maybe about here. Usually centered a little bit more, so yeah. Hi, Donna. We've only got half of the Canadian Disruption team tonight. Sean actually did message me to let me know he wasn't going to be tuning in tonight, so, but much love to you, Sean, and hopefully everything is going well. News Brew. So, our News Brew tonight is a great one. It is 14th Anniversary from Oddside Ales. Oddside Ales has been pumping out anniversary beers for every year they've been around, and sure enough, 14 years later, they have made an Imperial Stout, 11.8% ABV, and it is barreled in whiskey barrels with strawberries and vanilla cream flavor. Now, I am a sucker for strawberry, so this is right up my alley. We don't need the Balisong bottle opener because we have a wonderful can. Cheers, Oddside Ales, to 14 years. Get my finger on here. Jeez, I just trimmed my nails. There we go. And we've got our limited edition Harpoon Snifter because that's what you drink stouts out of. We're going to do the theatrics of a 5-minute pour right into the center of this cup. It is thick. That head is dark brown. My ring light is obviously illuminating a little bit, but that head is just dark brown, and that beer is about as dark as it can get. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. That's good beer. Yes, Eliza, it is available at Rishi's. It's actually where I got mine from, was Rishi's International Beverage on 28th Street in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's where I picked up my can. They didn't have much left, so you better go get it while you can. Hi, Charlie. Yes, Julie, this beer is thick. This is thick with 2 C's. All right, what have we got? Shoutouts. So, from one of our Nick Newsies, Donna, we have a birthday shoutout, a happy birthday shoutout to Grayson. Grayson celebrated his birthday on April 18th, and according to Donna, he is the best little brother ever. So, happy birthday, Grayson. And thank you very much, Donna, for sending in that shoutout. Cheers. Beer. We'll do another shout out. It is Lynette's birthday. Julie's friend Lynette has had a birthday. Big happy birthday to you, Lynette. And to Julie for saying so. Thank you very much. To Lynette, happy birthday. Cheers. I'm just making excuses now to have another sip. Shout out to Eliza's great-grandmother, who is turning 90 on May 1st. Happy birthday on May 1st to Eliza's grandmother. Great-grandmother. Cheers. Oh, that's no good. Well, I hope that she gets better very quickly. I'm sorry to hear that, Eliza. Last shout out that I have is a huge congratulations to my friend Dezirae Alexandria Mitchell-Garcia. Desiree, or Des, graduated from Davenport University and took the walk today to get her diploma. She's an incredible person. She has fought tooth and nail and deserves everything that she has fought for in her life, and to be able to cross that stage. So, to Des, congratulations on graduation. That's a good beer. That's a really good beer. All of the anniversary stouts that they've cooked up have been amazing. All the anniversary beers at Oddside Ales, I've had many. If you want another drink, I can birthday shout out Donna on the 5th. Well, let's see. When is our next News episode going to be? 5th to the 12th. So the next one would be on the 12th, which would be right after. It's between Nick's Newses, Donna. So cheers to Charlie for putting on pants and adulting. Cheers. And happy birthday to Donna on May 5th, between the news episodes. Cheers. Okay. No more shout-outs. We're going to pause from the beer. Wow. This is a good beer. Whew. Slightly revamped kitchen. Shout out to the slightly revamped kitchen. Oh, boy. Oh, this is going to be good. All right. News quote. I really like this one. I go through and I search for, like, quotes from certain days. And sometimes I got to backtrack a little bit, and I backtracked a little bit, and I found this one. I really like it. No, we're gonna pause on the shout-outs. Where's the post? Lily caught a bug? If it's a comment, I don't see, or if it's a comment off of a comment, I don't ever see the comments off the comments. So, move that. There we go. Shout out to Lily who caught a bug. All right, back to the quote. All right, I like this quote. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Now that quote supposedly comes from Siddhartha Gautama, who is most commonly referred to as the Buddha, the founder of Buddhism. And I think that's something to be remembered, and goes along very well with the Nick's News message that there is good news out there. We just have to find it, and we have to spread it, because there's nothing lost in doing so. Spreading a little bit of good news can go such a long way for anybody. So, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. I really like that. Thank you, Buddha. You're not going to get me hammered off this one beer. We'd have to do like a double Nick's News beer for sure. And I'm not going to go get another. I'm not going to go grab another beer. We're sticking with what we got. Bug update. All quiet on the buggy front again. I really need to get something big to mix things up. I still haven't. So let me move that just a tiny bit. Is my microphone picking up the rain outside? I took a long walk today and I kept looking up at the sky. I'm looking at the radar on my phone and I'm like, it doesn't look like it's going to do anything. And I keep looking at the sky and I'm like, it's going to do something. And sure enough, it's raining now. But I don't know if my microphone's catching it. Do I want a big bug? Kaylee bug is cute. The Kaylee bug is a cute bug. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's being picked up, which is weird considering it picks up damn near everything else. We're more than 30 seconds in. I won't get demonetized when I add this to YouTube. All right. So with that, let's get into our good news. Our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and the 4th one is the wholesome notes, those really nice articles that we like to end on, the touchy-feely ones. So we're going to start off in category 1, science and technology. I called this one, It's Alive! And it's actually a continuation of an article we had either last Nick's News or 2 Nick's Newses ago. So, this one was sent in by Cassidy. Cassidy, thank you so much for keeping me apprised of this situation. I absolutely love it. I will copy and paste the link for this in the chat if y'all want to read along. Voyager 1 is sending data back to Earth for the first time in 5 months. For the first time in 5 months, NASA engineers have received decipherable data from Voyager 1 after crafting a creative solution to fix a communication problem aboard humanity's most distant spacecraft in the cosmos. Voyager 1 is currently about 15 billion miles, or 24 billion kilometers for people who don't accept freedom, away. And at 46 years old, the probe has shown multiple quirks and signs of aging in recent years. The latest issue experienced by Voyager 1 first cropped up in November of 2023, when the Flight Data System's telemetry modulation unit began sending an indecipherable repeating pattern of code. Translation, it was sending garbage. Just straight pages of garbage. Voyager 1's flight data system collects information from the spacecraft's science instruments and bundles it together with engineering data that reflects its current health status. Mission Control on Earth receives that data in binary code, 1s and 0s. But since November, Voyager 1's flight data system has been stuck in a loop. While the probe has continued to relay a steady radio signal to Mission Control, the signal didn't carry any usable data, just gobbledygook. The mission team received the first coherent data about the health and status of Voyager 1's engineering systems on April 20th. While the team is still reviewing the information, everything they've seen so far suggests Voyager 1 is healthy and operating properly. Today was a great day for Voyager 1, said Linda Spilker, the Voyager project scientist at JPL, in a statement on Saturday. We're back in communication with the spacecraft, and we look forward to getting science data back. The breakthrough came as the result of a clever bit of trial and error and the unraveling of a mystery that led the team to a single chip. After discovering the issue, the mission team attempted sending commands to restart the spacecraft's computer system and learn more about the underlying cause of the problem. Now note, Voyager 1 is 15 billion miles away from Earth, which means sending any transmission to Voyager takes some time. Approximately 22 and a half hours. And then Voyager 1's got to do whatever we sent it to do, and then it's got to send data back in 22 and a half hours. It's not exactly the fastest mode of communication, but it works. So we sent commands to Voyager, and then for 2 days we hoped it didn't die. The team sent a command called a poke to Voyager, so they poked Voyager. Hey, you out there! To Voyager 1 on March 1st to get the flight data system to run different software sequences in the hopes of finding out what was causing the glitch. On March 3rd, 2 days later, the team noticed that activity from one part of the flight data system stood out from the rest of the garbled data. While the signal wasn't in the format the Voyager team is used to seeing when it's functioning properly, an engineer with NASA's Deep Space Network was able to decode it. The Deep Space Network is basically a giant system of radio antenna, and that's how we are able to send and receive signals from Voyager way the hell out there. The decoded signal included a readout of the entire flight data system's memory, so it could send back data. It's just sending it back weird. By investigating the readout, the team determined the cause of the issue. 3% of the flight data system's memory was corrupted. A single chip was responsible for storing part of the system's memory and some of the software code, and it wasn't working properly. Maybe it wore out, maybe it got whacked by an energetic particle, because right now, Voyager 1's in interstellar space. It is being bombarded with heavy energetic particles. So the likelihood of this is going up as Voyager 1 continues its mission. So the loss of code on the chip was causing Voyager 1 science and engineering data to be unusable. Since there's no way to repair the chip, they went through with a big code fix where they basically told Voyager to start using other chips to store data and to compile that data and then send it back to the mission control. To make this plan work, they also needed to adjust the code sections that were also in those chips to ensure, for example, that they all still function as a whole, according to an update from NASA. Any references to the location of that code in other parts of the flight data system memory needed to be updated as well. One of the big things with coding, when you're storing data in places, you need to be able to write the code properly to pull the data from those places. So they had to do that as well. A big code fix. After determining the code necessary for packaging Voyager 1's engineering data, engineers sent a radio signal to the probe commanding the code to a new location in the system's memory on April 18th. Given Voyager 1's immense distance, it took a little bit. On April 20th, the team received Voyager 1's response indicating that the clever code modification had worked, and they could finally receive readable engineering data from the probe once more. The next step they've got to do is they've got to relocate a few other pieces of data to other systems, and that's going to get the science data coming back. So right now they're just getting the engineering and the flight data. They've got to have it do the same thing with the science data. So they're going to start working through that, and hopefully by the end of this month or early into next month, we're going to be getting back all the data we need from Voyager 1 on its trip at 15 billion miles away. We never know for sure what's going to happen with the Voyagers. Note that Voyager 2 is 12.6 billion miles away and still cruising out there. It amazes me when they just keep going, said Voyager project manager Suzanne Dodd in a statement. We've had many anomalies, and they are getting harder, but we've been fortunate so far to recover from them, and the mission keeps going. And younger engineers are coming onto the Voyager team and contributing their knowledge to keep the mission going. To all of the scientists and engineers at NASA, and to the Voyager probes, and to Voyager 1 for finally being able to say, hello, good morning. Cheers. Oh, and to Cassidy for sending me that one. Big cheers. Let's see, I called this next one Progress is Progress. And this one was sent in by Eliza. So Eliza, thank you for sending this one in. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along with me. And yes, that entire situation is exactly how Star Trek happened. Most people don't realize how much progress we've made on climate change. The year was 2015. Uptown Funk with Bruno Mars was at the top of the music charts. Jurassic World was the most popular new movie in theaters. And decades of futility in international climate negotiations was about to come to an end in Paris. After years of inaction, despite constant warnings from climate scientists, hopes had been high for a breakthrough in climate agreements in 2009, leading up to the UN summit known as COP15 in Copenhagen. But just a few weeks before that event began, a hacker broke into a server at the University of East Anglia's climatic research unit and released a tranche of climate scientists' stolen emails. Though there was no indication of wrongdoing in those emails, some phrases taken out of context, combined with the then unusual nature of the public release of private email correspondence, derailed the Copenhagen summit, which was ultimately widely considered a failure. Climate science denial and policy obstruction thrived in the ensuing years. That was exemplified by an incident in which the then Senator James Inhofe, a Republican from Oklahoma, brought a snowball to the floor of the Senate in February of 2015 because he apparently believed that winter snow proved that global warming was a hoax. I hate that man. It doesn't. Global climate pollution had continued its seemingly inexorable rise, with fossil fuels accounting for 2/3 of global electricity generation, compared to less than 5% from wind and solar energy in that year. According to the International Energy Agency, based on government policies in place in 2015, global greenhouse gas emissions were on track to cause a potentially catastrophic 3.5 degrees Celsius, or for freedom utilizers, 6.3 degrees Fahrenheit of global warming by 2100. Seems far off. Still potentially in our lifetime. And this is one of those problems where when you think about it, you are not trying to think about it from the standpoint of yourself. You are trying to think of it from the standpoint of the generations to come. And I think that's a strength that our generation has, is we can think like that. So, back to the article. I'll get off my soapbox. As BuzzFeed News put it, in a world that is even just 3 degrees Celsius warmer, deadly heat waves, massive wildfires, and damaging downpours will come far more often and hit much harder than they do today. The ocean will be hotter too and more acidic, causing fish declines and likely the end of coral reefs. In fact, a quarter or so of the Earth's species may go extinct in such conditions or be headed that way. Our coastlines would be reshaped, a consequence of sea levels rising foot after foot, century after century, drowning places like Charleston, South Carolina's Market Street, downtown Providence, Rhode Island, and the Space Center in Houston, a place that is near and dear in my heart. And in December of 2015, there was little evidence to suggest that this existential disaster would be averted. But then, at the COP21 Paris International Climate Negotiations, a breakthrough changed the course of humanity. In the Paris Agreement, 196 countries pledged to hold the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, and pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Meeting those targets would require every country to implement climate policies to significantly curb their emissions of heat-trapping greenhouse gases. And though most countries are not yet on track to meet their Paris commitments, they have nevertheless implemented policies to make progress toward those targets, so they are working towards it. Like the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. As a result of that progress, global emissions are on a substantially better track today than they were in 2015. It's largely due in part to a rapid deployment of wind and solar energy. We've had huge increases in green energy sources. We've got policies in countries like Germany to encourage the early adoption of clean energy technologies. The cost of wind and solar energy The cost of wind and solar energy and batteries has fallen dramatically over the past decade, and as a result, solar and wind energy are the cheapest sources of new electricity in most cases today, and electric vehicles are beginning to have their lower total monthly costs than equivalent gasoline-fueled cars, so we're starting to see some shifts in different areas. Low clean technology costs combined with policy incentives in many countries have resulted in rapid, exponentially rising rates of deployment, especially over the past 3 years. So since the pandemic, we've really started to just roll out the red carpet on renewables, on clean technology and clean energy production. Solar panels today cost 6% as much as they did. They only cost 6% more than they did in 2007, less than half as much in 2015. So there hasn't been huge increases in the cost of those energy producing alternatives, like as opposed to gas, which shot up 50 cents the other day. Solar and wind energy accounted for less than 5% of global electricity production 8 years ago. Today, their share is up to 14%. It's projected to be 30% by the end of this decade. Solar installations are growing so fast that more solar panels were installed in the past 3 years than were deployed in the entire history of human civilization through 2020. That number is on track to nearly double in the next 3 years. So huge, huge expansion, explosion of solar energy. And electric vehicles are still growing. We've heard some different things about it. Kind of slowed down a little bit here in the US, but it is still on the rise, and people are still getting the feel for electric vehicles. The infrastructure needs to be there. Can't kid around on that. The infrastructure is not quite where we need it to be, but it is being worked on. Globally, electric vehicles are expected to account for about 18% of new car sales last year in 2023. And that's about 40% in China and well over 20% in Europe. So Norway is the global leader. Apparently, their electric models account for over 90% of new car sales. So people over in Norway just dig electric cars. Popularity of EVs is growing fast. As a result of all of this, the International Energy Agency projects that global climate pollution in 2030 will be about 7.5 billion tons, or nearly 20% lower than the pre-Paris Agreement pathway. Based on the current climate policies around the world, various groups estimate that we're now on track for around 2.5 degrees by 2100. So we are bringing the number down. Again, it doesn't seem like much, but it doesn't take much to flip the script. So we are having an effect. We're having a crazy effect. And in my book, that's good news. On the one hand, it's not yet good enough to meet the targets set in the Paris Agreement. On the other hand, climate policies and clean technologies deployed over just the past 8 years have already erased a full degree Celsius of global warming from the future world in 2100. And that's 8 years. Imagine what we can unveil in the next 92. Like, we're crazy. We're innovative. We're bonkers with this stuff. We're going to come up with new things. We're going to find new technologies. We're going to develop new processes. And hopefully by 2100, we'll hit our targets, if not sooner. Governments need to do more in the coming years to bring the Paris goals within reach, but the progress made over just the past 8 years has been remarkable, especially in comparison to the prior decades of futility. Yeah, energy and gas bills climbing is just a mess. Eliza, thank you very much for sending in that article, and to all of the countries, all of the engineers, all of the scientists, all of the people doing what needs to be done to change the future and global warming on our planet. Cheers. Just heard something outside. And it went away. So that's going to get us out of Category 1. We're going to move into Category 2, Health and Medicine. I pulled this first one from goodnewsnetwork.org. 3D printing vision is what I called it. And I'll copy and paste this in the chat if y'all want to read along. Oh, sorry. I sound a little stuffed up. Bioengineered corneas stand to cure blindness for millions of people around the world. Having gone through LASIK, myself, knowing what it can be like to be losing your vision and have it restored, anything vision related is good news to me. In an interview with the Brisbane Times, an Australian ophthalmologist and biotech entrepreneur lays out his vision for a world in which curing blindness in millions of people worldwide is easy and can be done with a bit of cell replication and a 3D printer. Professor Gerard Sutton is co-founder of Bianco, which he claims now possesses a product, both physical and intellectual, that will soon be able to be mass-produced natural corneas. That will soon be able to mass produce. Lays out, oh my gosh. I didn't even catch that pun. That's so punny. Good catch, Eliza. So he has a product that will soon be able to mass produce natural corneas for transplantation into the blind. Cornea transplantation is the most common way of restoring lost sight, but it's a very technical procedure that relies on donors. The thin, see-through windscreen of the eyeball, damage or disease to the cornea, is a major cause of non-hereditary blindness worldwide. In the interview, Sutton's voice shrinks as he recalls a trip he took to Myanmar in 2004 when he was hoping to help the situation of blindness from the previous civil war by training surgeons to perform cornea transplants. On ice, he said, he had brought along 4 donated corneas from the NSW Eye Bank. On his arrival at the clinic set to host him, 1,000 people were waiting, thanks to a small article in a local paper. Out of 1,000 blind men and women, he had to select 4 who would be the most suitable for transplant. He picked young people. This was a transformational experience, and when paired with a follow-up trip to Cambodia where a similar situation occurred, Professor Sutton realized he needed to do something more, something out of left field that would allow him to send as many corneas to these parts of the world as was needed. At present, there is only one donor cornea available globally to treat every 70 people requiring a corneal transplant, said Professor Damien Harkin, who is a part of Bianco's staff based at the Queensland University of Technology. Through laboratory cultivation, we estimate that a single donor cornea could provide treatment for 30 people. Bianco's artificial corneas are based on collagen, the proteins that make hair, skin, nails, and connective tissue. This tends to create opaque tissue, like our skin, and so the first challenge was to make the collagen see-through. Once this was done, Sutton and the other members of Bianco, like Harkin, had to figure out how to apply the many layers of collagen to make a cornea structure that could be transplantable. In 2021, Sutton managed to convince the Medical Research Future Fund, set up by the Treasurer of Australia, to back Bianco to the tune of about $35 million Australian. Armed with this unprecedented injection of cash, Sutton believes they are 3 to 4 years from achieving their goals and making Australia the center of bioengineering on Earth. So this is huge. Obviously, blindness. We are such a sight-based organism. It is our primary way of navigating our world. To lose that ability, or to not have it, can be life-shattering, or could be just it can very heavily impinge on the quality of life for somebody. So to be able to cure this by just being able to 3D print corneas, that's pretty good news. So to Professor Gerard Sutton and to everybody at Bianco, cheers. Pulled this next one from goodnewsnetwork.org. This one is interesting because we've been over this before, but it keeps having more breakthroughs and more improvements to the technology. So, once again, cancer. Fuck cancer. And I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. If y'all see any puns that I don't, call them out. Man, it must be humid because my hair is just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Cancer breakthrough found to boost immune cells without harmful side effects by directing protein cytokines. A new way to safely boost immune cells to fight cancer, avoiding harmful side effects such as hair loss, has been developed. Scientists at Virginia Tech devised the groundbreaking immunotherapy to localize cancer-killing cytokines in tumors, improving the effectiveness of current treatments. Immunotherapy involves harnessing the power of the body's immune system to fight potentially deadly cancer cells. The researchers at the College of Engineering have found a way to revamp a treatment procedure into an innovative practice. And this is what I said earlier about reinventing processes, improving them, finding new ways. Science. And health and medicine. Their approach involves activating the immune cells in the body and reprogramming them to attack and destroy the cancer cells. The method is frequently implemented with the protein cytokine. Cytokines are small protein molecules that act as intercellular biochemical messengers and are released by the body's immune cells to coordinate their response. Cytokines are potent and highly effective at stimulating the immune cells to eliminate cancer cells, explained chemical engineering professor Rong Tong, who is pictured above. The problem is they're so potent that if they roam freely throughout the body, they'll activate every immune cell they encounter, which can cause an overactive immune response and potentially fatal side effects. So when you have too many cytokines on the loose, they just turn the whole immune system on and it just goes crazy. Unlike previous methods, the new technique ensures that the immune cell stimulating cytokines effectively localize within the tumors for weeks while preserving the cytokine's structures and reactivity levels. So it keeps the cytokines kind of like in a baby cage in one area, and they're just shouting at the immune system in their immediate vicinity, "Hey, we got a tumor over here. Come and get this thing." Stimulating the body's immune system to attack tumors has been for years a promising alternative to traditional cancer treatments like chemotherapy, which can't distinguish between healthy cells and cancer cells. As we've gone over several times on Nick's News, chemotherapy just attacks everything. It kills cells. That's what it does, which means it kills tumor cells and it kills healthy cells. Professor Tong says the delivery of cytokines can jumpstart the immune cells in the tumor, but overstimulating healthy cells can also cause severe side effects. Scientists determined a while ago that cytokines can be used to activate and fight against tumors, but they didn't know how to localize them inside the tumor while not exposing toxicity to the rest of the body. Chemical engineers can look at this from an engineering approach and use their knowledge to help refine and elevate the effectiveness of the cytokines so they can work inside the body effectively. So basically, it's pointing the cytokine at something and saying, that, just that, nothing else, just that. That takes engineering. The team's goal was to strike a balance between killing cancer cells while sparing healthy cells by creating specialized particles with distinctive sizes that help determine where the drug is going. But I'm gonna need more cytokines. The microparticles are designed to stay within the tumor environment after being injected into the body. Materials science and engineering professor Wenjun Rebecca Kai and her students worked on measuring the particle's surface properties. Surface engineering, I'm going to do this a lot. I really got to get a button for engineering like you said, Charlie. For this article, I just got to be mashing that thing. It'd be like engineering. Ba, 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 ba. All right, surface engineering and characterization, along with particle size, play important roles in controlled drug delivery, ensuring prolonged drug presence and sustained therapeutic effectiveness, explained Professor Tong. Hockey goal horn. Our strategy not only minimizes cytokine-induced harm to healthy cells, but also prolongs cytokine retention within the tumor. This helps facilitate the recruitment of immune cells for targeted tumor attack. She says the next step involves combining the new localized cytokine therapy method with commercially available FDA-approved checkpoint blockade antibodies, which reactivate the tumor immune cells that have been silenced so they can fight back the cancer cells. So it's going to be a two-pronged attack. The cytokines are going to be put in a spot and just told to scream about the cancer cell. And then these antibodies are going to be utilized to turn the immune system back on in that area so it can be like, the cytokines are crying. We should probably take care of this. When there's a tumor inside the body's immune cells are being deactivated by the cancer cells. That's one of cancer's most evil things. Cancer wants to look like normal cells. Cancer doesn't want to get eaten by the immune system. So cancer turns off the immune system in its area. Now we have a way to not only turn the immune system back on, but we have a bullhorn to go off to alert where the cancer is. The FDA-approved checkpoint blocking antibody helps take off the brakes that tumors put on immune cells. Immune system has no brakes. While the cytokine molecules step on the gas to jumpstart the immune system and get an immune cell army to fight cancer cells. These two approaches work together to activate immune cells. Combining the checkpoint antibodies with the particle-anchored cytokine proved to successfully eliminate many tumors in the study, which was published in the Journal of Science Advances. The team believes the new approach of attaching cytokines to particles also could be used to deliver other types of immunostimulatory drugs. So basically, we can do a lot with these little guys. The whole class of drugs that are employed to jumpstart the immune system to fight cancer cells has largely not yet succeeded. Our goal is to create novel solutions that allow researchers to test these drugs with existing FDA-approved therapeutics, ensuring both safety and enhanced efficacy. Professor Kai views their project as a perfect marriage between chemical engineering and material science. This collaboration not only accelerates immunotherapy research, but also has the ability to transform cancer treatment. That is awesome. To all of the scientists at Virginia Tech, to all the engineers, to everybody involved in this one, turning the immune system back on and getting it to just run over cancer cells. Cheers. That's going to get us out of Category 2, the health and medicine. We're going to get into Category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. This first one comes from Eliza. Eliza, thank you for sending this one in. I called this one Snow Shoveling for Seal Pups. The actual title, a little more interesting. And I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along with me. These artificial snowdrifts protect seal pups from climate change. The human-built habitats shield the pups from predators in the freezing cold, but they're threatened by global temperature rise. Just before 10 a.m., hydrobiologist Gerald Ilmonen and his team of 6 step out across a flat, half-mile-wide disk of snow and ice. For half the year, this vast clearing is open water, the tip of one arm of the labyrinthian Lake Saimaa, Finland's biggest lake, which reaches almost to Russia's westbound border. As each snow boot lands, there's a burst of static, like the spine-tingling scrape of a freezer drawer closing. It's a poor amount of snow, complains Ilmonen, who sees less than half the 20 centimeters or 8 inches in freedom units he'd hoped for in mid-January. To reach their destination, one of the roughly 14,000 islands that poke out from the lake's frozen surface, the team must walk for almost an hour in temperatures of negative 17 degrees Celsius or 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Ilmonen pays close attention to the snow underfoot because today it will be the material from which they construct life-saving shelters for the Saimaa ringed seal, one of the world's most endangered seals. One key question brings volunteers out in these icy conditions. How will an animal that's born inside a grotto of snow survive on a warming planet? For millennia, during Saimaa's blistering winters, wind drove snow into meters-high snowbanks along this lake's shoreline, offering prime real estate from which these seals carved cave-like dens to shelter from the elements and raise their newborns. But in recent decades, these snowdrifts have failed to form in sufficient numbers, as climate change has brought warming temperatures and rain in place of snow. So, for the last 11 years, humans have stepped in to construct what nature can no longer reliably provide. Human-made snowdrifts, built using handheld snowplows to mimic the actions of strong winds, are the latest in a raft of measures that have brought Saimaa's seals back from the brink of extinction. Following curbs on hunting and industrial pollution, and seasonal bans on fishing with gill nets. Now the seal population is rebounding from lows of 100 or so in the 80s to about 400 today. Some 320 pups, half of all Sima ringed seals born since 2014, took their first breath inside these man-made shelters. This year, Ilmonen and his colleagues at Finland's Parks and Wildlife Agency have been watching since winter began for signs of trouble ahead. By December, an ice sheet typically covers the lake, and seals will use sharp claws on their front flippers to make a hole in the ice from the water below before carving out their den inside the snow piled above. A lack of snow or ice could spell the death of all the year's pups. As ice and snow arrive, the team springs into action, joined by groups run by the charity World Wildlife Fund in southern parts of Lake Sima. All of today's volunteers, including a nurse and a yoga instructor, are constructing seal habitats for the first time. Their destinations are plotted on a map kept secret under Finnish law to protect these rare creatures. The first site is sheltered in a cove, shadowed by rocks and trees on the north side of a small island, where the snowdrifts they make will be protected from melting through spring. On arrival, Ilmonen hammers a heavy metal spike called a tura through the ice and uses a measuring stick to check that there is close to a meter of space from the seals to swim below, or for the seals to swim below. These seals look crazy, by the way. Like, there's a picture of them in the article. They look nuts. Today, the levels are right, and he marks out an area for the snowdrift. Construction begins by driving loose snow into a bank about 8 meters, or 26 freedom units long, and 3 meters wide. As snow piles up, Ilmonen stomps it down to form compact layers until it reaches a height of about a meter. If all goes to plan, fresh snowfall will add a further layer of cover. Over the last decade, the locations, designs, and construction methods for anthropogenic snowdrifts have been developed by scientists from the University of Eastern Finland and the Finnish Parks Agency. So they've been working on this a while to make these man-made snowdrifts. Each year, data is gathered by a seal census, some years with the help of camera traps that record seals' preferences and the performance of their shelters, and the process is tweaked the following year. The first shelters were smaller, loosely piled snow, explains ecologist Mina Attila, who invented the artificial snowdrift for her PhD thesis back in 2010. But after the first winter, the drifts we had piled up had melted surprisingly quickly, and the roofs of the layers collapsed. Pups left exposed can freeze or be eaten by foxes, wolves, lynxes, or wolverines. Stanislav Rudowski, founder of Deep Design Lab at the University of Melbourne, says this type of rigorous data gathering and iterative design is one way we can begin to treat other species as collaborators and co-design with them. So basically the possibility of expanding the technology and the data, or using the data to help other species, is available. Environmental scientists and designers are envisioning more ways to support wild organisms through what's sometimes called interspecies or more than human design, such as by producing artificial reefs for wildlife bridges. The shelters are one of many solutions meant to respond to specific populations' conservation needs. Other examples include the grizzly vulture restaurants in Nepal, enclosures where the scavenging birds are fed cattle carcasses free from the poisons that decimated their populations, and 3D printing nesting boxes that Deep Design Lab has built for rare owls. Whether this year's snowdrifts have been used will not be known until spring, after the seals have departed and left visible holes where dens have been, along with white fluff from the newborns. To date, 3/4 of the nearly 2,000 snowdrifts made by humans around Lake Sima have been used by seals, and in recent mild winters, those dens have housed 90% of the seal pups. Since 2016, Attila and researchers from the University of Eastern Finland have searched for a solution that will last through the years ahead, when climate models predict that Sima will no longer be covered by ice and snow each year. This year, 33 usable floating artificial nest structures were deployed, using plastic tubes as floats and organic siding made from peat or willow to provide the first artificial habitats for large free-ranging wild mammals. Wildlife cameras revealed 5 pups born in earlier prototypes of these shelters, which have meanwhile repelled foxes, raccoons, dogs, and lynx. Yet seals still prefer snow if they can find it. The project aims to next produce a seal-safe shelter that is easy to transport by snowmobile. Most crucially, Attila adds, seals have to accept it. Well, that's a really interesting article to everybody involved with trying to help the Sima ringed seal. And to Eliza for sending in that article. Cheers. I know that one was a little bit of a long read. A lot of science. This next one was sent in by Ed. I called it, well, I took a quote off of the article. Last time this happened, Earth got plants. Ed, thank you for sending this one in. I'm going to copy and paste this one in the chat if y'all want to read along, because this is pretty crazy. Two life forms merge in once in a billion years evolutionary event. Last time this happened, Earth got plants. Scientists have caught a once in a billion years evolutionary event in progress as two life forms have merged into one organism that boasts abilities its peers would envy. Last time this happened, Earth got plants. The phenomenon is called primary endosymbiosis, and it occurs when one microbial organism engulfs another and starts using it like an internal organ. In exchange, the host cell provides nutrients, energy, protection, and other benefits to the symbiote, until eventually it can no longer survive on its own and essentially ends up becoming an organ for the host, or what's known as an organelle in microbial cells. Imagine if kidneys were actually little animals running around, and humans had to manually filter their blood through a dialysis machine. Then one day, some guy somehow gets one of these kidney critters stuck internally, who are we to judge how, and realizes he no longer needs his dialysis machine. Neither do his kids, until eventually we're all born with these helpful little fellas inside us. That's kind of what's happening here. And if you want another example of this kind of craziness happening, I don't think any of us are unfamiliar with the phrase, the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, because I'm pretty sure third grade biology beat that into our heads. Like third grade science. We all learned about mitochondria. It is theorized that mitochondria began as a separate organism entirely. And one day a cell ate one and figured out, hey, this little thing can help me. So instead of eating it, I'm going to keep it safe and it's going to give me power. Bonkers biology. And now it's happening again. In the 4 billion odd year history of life on Earth, primary endosymbiosis is thought to have only happened twice that we know of, and each time was a massive breakthrough for evolution. The first occurred about 2.2 billion years ago, when an archaea, a specific type of organism, swallowed a bacterium that became mitochondria. This specialized energy-producing organelle allowed for basically all complex forms of life to evolve. It remains the heralded powerhouse of the cell to this day. The second time it happened was about 1.6 billion years ago, when some of the more advanced cells absorbed cyanobacteria that could harvest energy from sunlight. These became organelles called chloroplasts, which gave sunlight harvesting abilities as well as a fetching green color to a group of life forms you might have heard of, plants. That's right, plants did the same thing that archaea did to grow life. The initial plant cells found their mitochondria, the chloroplast. This is crazy. Now scientists have discovered it's happening again. A species of algae called, oh boy, I'm gonna butcher this one. Give me a moment. Braurodosphera bigelowi. Braurodosphera bigelowi was found to have engulfed a cyanobacterium that lets them do something that algae, and plants in general, can't normally do. Fixing nitrogen straight from the air and combining it with other elements to create more useful compounds. Nitrogen is a key nutrient, and normally plants and algae get theirs through symbiotic relationships with bacteria that remain separate. So the bacteria are separate from the plant cell, And through interaction and one feeding the other, nitrogen is made that can be uptaken by the plant cell. Now, they're doing it without it. Hello, venom and carnage. At first, it was thought that B. bigelowi had hooked up this kind of situation with a bacterium called UCYNA, but on closer inspection, scientists discovered that the two have gotten far more intimate. In one recent study, a team found that the size ratio between the algae and UCYNA stays similar across different related species of the algae. Their growth appears to be controlled by the exchange of nutrients, leading to linked metabolisms. That's exactly what happens with organelles, said Jonathan Zier, an author of the studies. If you look at the mitochondria and the chloroplast, it's the same thing. They scale with the cell. In a follow-up study, the team and other collaborators used a powerful X-ray imaging technique to view the interior of the living algae cells. This revealed that the replication and cell division was synchronized between the host and symbiote. More evidence of primary endosymbiosis at work. So, before, what you get is you would get the algae cell would split, and then eventually the symbiote, the other cell, the bacteria would split, eventually. Now, when one splits, both split. So you always have the same pairs. And finally, the team compared the proteins of isolated UCYNA to those inside the algal cells. They found that the isolated bacterium can only produce about half of the proteins it needs, relying on the algal host to provide the rest. They are merging. That's one of the hallmarks of something moving from an endosymbiont to an organelle, said Zier. They start throwing away pieces of DNA and their genomes get smaller and smaller, and they start depending on the mother cell for those gene products or the protein itself to be transported into the cell. Altogether, the team says this indicates UCYNA is a full organelle, which is given the name nitroplast. It appears that this began to evolve around 100 million years ago, which sounds like an incredibly long time, but is a blink of an eye compared to mitochondria and chloroplasts. The researchers plan to continue studying nitroplasts to find out if they're present in other cells and what effects they may have. One possible benefit is that it could give scientists a new avenue to incorporate nitrogen fixing into plants to grow better crops. So that's really cool. Ed, thank you for sending that in to all the scientists working on this and watching a once in a billion year evolutionary event. Cheers. This next one was sent in by Julie. Julie, thank you very much for sending this one. I called it Meat Officer Donut, but I will copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along. How a cat found a job, a new home, at the Kentwood Police Department. Spring wind blows away the last of the cold, signaling we've survived another Michigan winter. It's no minor feat if you're a cat without a home, especially one in Kentwood, who proves to be a never more true example of name determination. It's a police station, right? Everybody likes a donut, said Captain Tim Wieringa, the newest member of the Kentwood Police Department Feline Division. Officer Donut. Around a year ago or close to it, Donut just kind of started popping in our back employee entrance area, said Tim. He and his team first spotted Donut simply looking for a place to sleep and a meal. He comes by 2 or 3 times a day. Seems like he gains a pound or 2 every day, laughed Tim. But they gave him something better. A home. They checked to see if he was microchipped, kind of checked out the normal things that you can do for an animal that might be lost. One of our employees was able to find the family that actually owned it and was also looking for it, he explained. We got a hold of the family. They came over. Everybody kind of did a walk around and had some conversations. The family had decided that this was a better place for the cat, given their current situation. All of the officers chipped in with their own money to have Donut microchipped, vaccinated, and treated for a few medical issues. Donut was officially part of the force. He takes a hard stance against catnip. It's Russell. He's got to stop the underground the underground catnip market. He just keeps getting better and better accommodations in the back. I think he's got a winter house, a summer house. It's got all the food and treats that he needs, said Tim. He likes to jump on the third shifters' cars and try to sneak inside their car at night because he knows which ones have treats. If they're writing reports in the back lot, he jumps on the computer and makes them have to retype a few things, he smiled. But just as sure as the season changes, a change is coming for Donut, too. It's almost at the end of his time as a Kentwood officer, said Tim. It's a tale as old as time. A dog is chasing out the cat. We're going to have another new officer over here, a new canine program that's starting up, he explained. We just need to make sure that everybody gets along, and sometimes I think cats and dogs don't always mix. The cat who showed up at their back door unwanted then had a line of officers who volunteered to take him in. Donut's going to retire and go live with our administrative assistant, who is extremely happy to have Donut join her, said Tim. I don't think that she's going to be able to get away without bringing Donut in for a couple of trips every once in a while. She will spoil Donut as much as Donut was spoiled here with the Kentwood family. Maybe it was fate that brought Donut here. I think it was food, laughed Tim. Or that. It's kind of like the Garfield. He's kind of like the Garfield of Kentwood, Tim said. Either way, as he hangs up his cuffs, Officer Donut will always be a reminder that a new season is just around the bend for all of us. It's such a nice thing to have, make people a little happy for a minute, smiled Tim. And there is a small video about Officer Donut. He's the reason all the catnip's missing out of the evidence locker. Busting the dark hissing catnip ring. Well, to Officer Donut and to the Kentwood Police Department for taking him in and caring for him, and then to the administrative assistant who will be taking on the care of Officer Donut. And to Julie for sending in that article. Cheers. All right, so that gets us out of Category 3, gets us into Category 4, the wholesome notes. These are the nice ones that we like to end on. I called this first one, Fourth Meal Saves a Life. And I will copy and paste this into the chat for you all to read along. These last 3 articles did all come from goodnewsnetwork.org. One of them did get selected by one of our viewers, so we'll get to that one in a sec. But I will post this one in the chat if you all want to read along with me. He will go and lay in the sunbeams. That's adorable. Taco Bell manager revives lifeless baby that pulled up to the drive-thru. The EMT said my CPR saved his life. At the Richboro Taco Bell outside of Philadelphia, manager Becky Arbaugh wasn't working the lunch rush, but was around nevertheless. She heard a scream coming from the drive-thru window, followed by the harrowing words, "Call 911, the baby isn't breathing." The phone would have to wait as Arbaugh threw off her headset and rushed to see the situation. Just outside the drive-thru window, she saw Natasha Long holding the lifeless blue body of her 11-week-old son, Miles. The mom was panicked. Arbaugh told Good Morning America. I told her to give him to me, and I performed CPR. I was trying to calm her down and comfort her and reassure her that he will be fine. The baby finally started to breathe. The ambulance came pretty quickly, and then they took over, Arbaugh said. The EMT said I saved his life. The circumstances could not have been more fortunate for Miles, because Arbaugh, a mother to 4 children herself, has already restarted the heart of her daughter a few times owing to medical complications. In an emailed statement to ABC News, a spokesperson for Taco Bell said, "We are incredibly proud of Becky for her heroic act earlier this week. We are getting in touch to express appreciation for her quick actions and kindness." As for her Taco Bell family, GMA said that store members and those in other locations have showered her with the messages of appreciation, while Mother Natasha spoke with Arbaugh on the phone the next day to express what the mother's readily reading can only imagine would be heartfelt gratitude. To Philadelphia Taco Bell manager Becky Arbaugh for saving the life of an 11-month-old child. Cheers. I call this next one Mr. Trash Wheel Gobbles Garbage. And I mainly selected it as a wholesome note because the moment I saw the picture at the top of the article, I just burst out laughing. So I hope I'll get a laugh out of this one too. I'll copy and paste it in the chat for y'all to read along if you want. Baltimore's Mr. Trash Wheel. A decade of garbage gobbling equates to 5.2 million pounds. And there's the googly-eyed monster himself. I don't know whose bright idea it was to put googly eyes on this thing, but it works. The Baltimore Harbor's most beloved resident is celebrating his decennial. And what better way to look back on his years of service than listing a few of his achievements? Mr. Trash Wheel is a national icon. He should be protected at all costs. Since his installment in the Inner Harbor in 2014, his popularity led to the installment of other trash-collecting wheels, like Gwynda, the Good Wheel of the West, which have formed his family of 4. Humans will humanize anything. 5.2 million pounds of trash has floated onto their conveyor belt tongues, been carried up into their water wheel gullets, and dropped into the floating dumpsters behind them. Mr. Trash Wheel boasts an extensive fan club, the Order of the Wheel, which welcomes in anyone willing to pledge a reduced reliance on single-use plastics and an intent to occasionally clean up their community. 3,000 members have joined the Order's ranks. Approximately 45,000 homes have been powered with electricity generated from the incineration of biological waste captured by Mr. Trash Wheel and his family. The trash wheels clean a total of 123 square miles of water catchment. Gwynda and Mr. Trash Wheel clean 60, while Professor Trash Wheel covers 2 square miles and Captain Trash Wheel has 1. To Mr. Trash Wheel and the Trash Wheel family for cleaning up Baltimore waterways. Well, waterways everywhere. Cheers. Our last article of the night was sent in by Charlie. It is from goodnewsnetwork.org. And given the history behind this incident that has led to this moment for this article, I feel it's a really good one to end on. It's very hopeful. So Charlie, thank you for sending this one in. I called it From Fire to Forefront. And I will copy and paste this into the chat for y'all to read along. Masterpieces saved from Notre-Dame fire, now restored and back on view. It's miraculous. Or Notre Dame, sorry. A collection of great historical artworks saved from the fires of Notre Dame. I think it is Notre Dame. Quasimodo, the Hunchback of Notre Dame? Yeah, I'm going to go with Notre Dame. Are set to be exhibited as they haven't been for over 160 years, as the famous cathedral nears its reopening in December. Known as the Maze of Notre-Dame, they are 76 monumental religious works, mostly from the 17th century, 13 of which were on display display in the cathedral during the fire. Notre-Dame. Okay, I'll call it Notre-Dame from here on out. The double irony is that the reason they haven't been exhibited together in so long is because the Notre-Dame's famous architectural custodian, Eugene Viollet-le-Duc, didn't like them and had them removed from their place between the central columns of the transept and placed in the side chapels either side of the nave. This location was one of the last to suffer from the blaze, meaning that Viollet-le-Duc's displeasure was their salvation. To commemorate the Virgin Mary, every May from 1630 to 1707, the Goldsmiths Guild in Paris would present a monumental religious scene to honor the saint, painted by some of the best artists of the age, giving this collection of paintings the nickname the Maze of Notre-Dame. Painted 10 feet by 8 inches wide and 8 feet by 6 inches tall, they were uniform in size and style, with the paintings borrowing scenes from Greece, the Bible, and Rome to tell religious stories. On that fateful April day in 2019, treasures of all kinds were saved, including a wooden chest containing the 27-meter-long chancel rug of the cathedral, used last for the procession of Napoleon III's wedding. After the fires had gone out, first responders found the 13 Mays still hanging in the side chapels. Apart from some water damage, they were unscathed. We began removing them the day after the fire and decided they would all be restored. The exhibition is a chance to see them all in one place, in the order they were painted, which is how they would have been originally displayed. What you see now is how they would have looked the day they were completed, said Emmanuel Pennicott, Director of Mobilier National Collections, geez, these words, the association appointed by the French government to restore the works. Of the 76 Mays that were painted, 52 are known to the art world. Most are in churches in France, while 7 reside in private collections in the UK. Deciding to restore the paintings means that master painters who specialized in touching up damaged or antique works will be allowing visitors to Paris to see how this fierce contest of artistic and religious patronage unfolded over time. The exhibition features another 9 religious paintings saved from the fire, and 14 tapestries that were part of the Notre Dame's chancel, but which now reside in Strasbourg. The treasures of Notre Dame will be on display at the Mobilier National from 24th of April to the 21st of July. French, am I right? Yeah. Eliza, thank you very much. Or not Eliza, sorry. Charlie sent this one in. Charlie, thank you very much for submitting this one. To all of the artists and to everybody that not only saved these works in the fire that took the Notre Dame, but, gosh, to everybody involved in restoring them and bringing them to light and now assembling them for when the Notre Dame reopens in December. And to Charlie for finding this article. Cheers. That about does it. We had 10 good articles. I mean, I think it was 10 good articles. I thank you all so much for sending in a bunch of those. I'm going to double check my calendar real quick here, because I didn't check it beforehand. I think we're going to be all set for our next episode. We're not going to have to move the date for it. Ed, there you are. Thank you for sending in that article, Ed. That was really cool. So it looks like our next episode is going to be on May 12th. Engineering brain, history brain, art brain. There are a lot of brains involved in that one, but yeah. So that was really good. That was 10 really good articles. I think our winner for the night, let's see. So we had one from Charlie. We had one from Ed. We had one from Cassidy, and we had 2 from Eliza. So Eliza managed to win out the sent-in articles race. Yes, our next episode will be on Mother's Day. So yeah, that'll be fun. We'll do a Mother's Day special. There will, of course, be a shout-out to all the mothers. You make the world go round. So, but we'll get to that on that episode. I want to thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News Facebook page or the future coming Nick's News YouTube page. Again, we're live every other Sunday, and as we've been going over it, our next episode will be on Mother's Day, May 12th, 2024. I encourage participation, so feel free to send in ideas for news brews, shout-outs, news quotes, and good news articles that you find that we can present on future episodes, and you can send those to the Nick's News Facebook page Messenger. That's the best place to send those so I can catalog them, look at them, go through the articles, talk about where I might put them, and then pull them when I do my write-ups. If possible, I do appreciate a variety of articles across our 4 categories, and those categories, again, are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and the wholesome notes, the really nice articles that we like to end on. So, you should drink box wine on Mother's Day. Send it in as a suggestion, and maybe I'll slap down. What's the famous box wine that everyone talks about? I know there's like a stereotypical one that's like the box wine. Who can tell me what it is? I have plenty of wine glasses. I just don't drink. I don't drink a lot of wine unless I'm like with my family or the occasion's right. But what is like the major box wine? I'm watching the chat here, see if somebody can point it out to me. It's like Franzia or something. Ben says Franzia. Franzia was the first one that came to my mind. Is Franzia like box wine? Franzia. Okay, we got follow-ups on that. So maybe I'll just slap down a box of Franzia and I'll just be refilling a glass on Mother's Day. We'll see. It wouldn't exactly be a news brew at that point, but we'll look into it. So, as always, thank you again. I love you all so much. This has been a great episode. And have a great night, and I'll play us out.